I said I'd record how to do this. Hopefully it'll be easier to get through if you aren't on Google Meet. I really feel like Google Meet slows down how well your Wi-Fi is working. So hopefully while you're watching the video, you won't be on a Google Meet and it'll be easier to complete what you need to complete and have this done. And also the other nice thing about recording it is you can start and stop it and go back whenever you need to. So for today's Google Graphing, it is in your Unit 1 Foundations of Science, Science Basics folder. And you open it up. Now yours is going to look a little bit different than mine. Or it might have. I'm going to erase this so that we can go through it together. And also, this is the version that all teachers share. So I'm going to quick make a copy so that I know that this is the video version. Video version. Third. And I want, actually, I'm just going to leave it in there. Okay. All right. So as this loads, again, I know this can be a stressful process. Take deep breaths, take breaks when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. You're learning something new. And so because of that, it might be frustrating now and again while you're working on this. So I already set up a template for you. So go ahead and open that. You're going to put that to the side, make a copy. This is I'm going to label this. You should always label your copies too, so you know which one is the one you actually were working on. So video version for me. Okay. So I'm just going to ignore that for now. I'm going to go over here. We're going to start looking at these questions. So on Schoology, you guys were supposed to watch an Edpuzzle on Mythbusters Talking to Plants. Okay. And let me make this a little bit bigger. So you should have already been exposed to this. They wanted to do an experiment on the myth of if you talk to plants, they grow more. And so that's what they did. You saw it in the video. You will be graphing this data and comparing it to the image below, the default graph. As you change your graph, think about some items that are needed to make a good display of scientific data. So this is what Google Sheets pumps out. It's really basic. So we're gonna make it a better graph, okay? But first, we need to answer some questions such as what is the independent variable, what is the dependent variable, and what is the type of graph you should use. Now, in class today, we did answer these already, at least these first two, and we said that our independent variable, which remember is what the scientist is experimenting on, what they're trying to change, so what's not normal, and it looks like their not normal stuff would be the heavy metal music, classical music, talking nice and talking mean. So our independent variable is what the plants are listening to. That's what we're changing. So the dependent variable is the different noises the plants are listening to while they grow. So remember, at any time while I'm going through this, you can pause so that you can write down what I write down. Okay. The dependent variable is, remember, that's the data we're taking. That's what we're measuring to see, hey, did the thing I changed actually do anything? And so what we looked at was the different, their growth. Okay. So we looked at plant growth. So we either looked at the biomass in grams and the number of pea pods. Okay, so that's we looked at how much they grew, and it looks like heavy metal did the best, right? It was 54 grams, it had 26 pea pods, whereas no talking, no noise actually kept it still, which is really, or not still, it didn't grow as well, which is super interesting. That plants would even respond to that. They don't have ears. Anyway, so what type of graph should you use? Remember in our notes we took today, we talked about how there's line graphs, there's bar graphs, and there's pie graphs. Pie graphs, remember, are going to tell you what percentage something is out of a whole. We're not looking at out of 100, like what is this out of 100? We're not looking at that. So it's not a pie graph. So that leaves a bar graph or a line graph. Remember, line graph is for change, looking at change over time, typically. And a bar graph is looking at comparing one thing to another. So I think from this, we don't have a change over time. If it had like how many days went by and how tall they were each day or whatever, that would be different. We would show that differently. But this is just looking at heavy metal versus classical versus talking nice. So I would say this is best in a bar graph. So go ahead, bar. Oop. I'm going to change the text again. You don't have to. I like when it sticks out a little bit for me. So a bar graph is will help us compare the different sounds and how they affected the plant's growth. Make that a little bit bigger. Remember, you can pause me at any time so that you make sure you got the right answers down. Okay, save and close. So now we're going to look at this data and make a graph. Now, luckily for you, I already popped this data into this template right here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to make a graph that looks like this, but we're going to make some changes so that it's better, okay? So what you need to do is you're going to click on A, see how it's blue and it's highlighted, and you're going to click and drag to 19. There's two ways you can put a graph in. Both ways are really easy. You can either go up to this menu bar right here and go all the way over to this button that says Insert Chart and kind of looks like a little bar graph. You can click that. If you like to click more, you might go to Insert, and right down here is the Chart button. So again, it's the box that shows a little graph. So go ahead and click on that. Either way, it will come up with this. Okay. Now there's a couple things we might want to change. For example, the title here has just, like, it doesn't make sense. It says plant biomass, grams, and number of pea pods, but it doesn't tell us like anything about the experiment. So remember, a good graph is going to, or a good title for a graph is going to talk about both the independent, which is down here, and the dependent variables. So here it has the setup. I do want to show you that you can mess with the chart type. So there's different ways you can show this. We decided already that a bar chart would be best. They have so many options here, though. I think that's ugly. That, ew, gross. Okay. GeoChart, there's nothing geographical about this. Either way, I want you to know that this is here because there are going to be times where we need to pick a different graph than a bar graph. But for now, this is perfect. Okay. It has a whole bunch of other things you could manipulate, but we're not going to mess with them right now. we're going to go ahead and click on customize. So go ahead and click on customize, pause me if you need to. And we need to add or we need to change our title to include what we're looking at or what the experiment was about. So if you click on chart and axis title, it has chart title right there. And it has the like plant biomass and number of pea pods on there. I think we should change it to talk about it needs to talk about the independent and dependent variables. So the effect of sound on plant growth. So I'm going to just summarize what this whole experiment was about. We were looking at the sound of that you put on around a plant and how much it grew. So that kind of sums that up and makes that a better title because it includes the independent and dependent variable. Okay. Next, down here, we should probably have our axes labeled. So our x-axis, which is down here, remember that's our independent variable. You're going to go ahead and you're going to click on the green words right here, chart title, and it's going to have a drop-down box. We want the horizontal axis when we're talking about the x-axis here, okay? The title we want has to do with what's going on down here. So we're looking at different sounds. So maybe I'll write that. Different sounds played for plants. Bam. Okay, that's a nice title for down there explaining what this means. And now we want to do the y-axis. So we want the vertical axis. You're going to click on this again and hit vertical axis. And we're looking at how much the plants grew over here, either by looking at the biomass or the number of pea pods. So plant growth, and that would be in either grams or number of pea pods. Bam. Okay, we have our data already charted. We don't need a line of best fit. So I think this is really, really good when it comes to what your graph should look like. Okay. The next thing you need to do, which you might never have done before, is you're going to take a screenshot of just the graph. And the way you do that, I'll show you. Let me get myself out the way. So screenshot on a Chromebook. I had just looked at this earlier. So images. What you're going to push on your Chromebook is Control, Shift, and then this box with 2 lines behind it. I don't know if this is clearer. Control, Shift, box with 2 lines behind it. You hold those all down at the same time, and you can select what you want to highlight. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. So you're going to do Control, Shift, and then the screen should get kind of dark like it did right now, and you pull across and let go, and it'll come up with a box down at the bottom for you, copy to clipboard, and you're going to copy to the clipboard. For me, it doesn't because I'm on a PC, so it's a little bit different. But on your Chromebook, once you do that Control Shift box with 2 lines after it, you'll push copy to clipboard, and then it says take a screenshot of your graph and paste it here. So I'm going to highlight this, Control V. Bam, there is our graph, and it looks so much better than this. Okay. So what changes did we make to our new graph? We created a better title that included the independent and dependent variable. We created a title for the x-axis. we created a title for the y-axis. All right, so hopefully you finish that for tonight. And then tomorrow we're going to create a line graph. Looks gross, but it's okay. All right, so go ahead and make sure you have that done so that we're ready to go tomorrow.